Country trip involving nearly 500 grams of meth sends a West Point man to prison. Prosecutors say 25-year-old Charterius LaQuest Moore of West Point was sentenced to 3 years in prison Thursday in federal court in Albuquerque and will serve 3 years of supervised release after his prison term. Federal drug agents arrested him in January 2017 after seizing nearly 465 grams of meth from him in Albuquerque. Moore was accused of transporting the drugs to Albuquerque on a bus from Victorville, California, with the intention of delivering the narcotics to another person in Tupelo. Investigators say the meth was hidden in a heat-sealed bundle inside a pillow. Moore was indicted and charged with possession of methamphetamine with intent to distribute. Moore was indicted and he pleaded guilty in that case last September. Well, it's still unclear whether the ex-wife of basketball player Lorenzen Wright will get the death penalty after being accused of plotting the murder of her ex-husband. Shara Wright and her co-defendant Billy Turner were indicted by a grand jury back in January. The indictment alleges that Wright and Turner killed Lorenzen Wright between July 17th and July 20th of 2010. Wright was found shot to death in a swampy field in suburban Memphis 10 days after the 34-year-old was reported missing. Take a look.
Shara Wright was in court only a couple of minutes, just enough time for attorneys Blake Ballin and Steve Faris Jr. to announce they had been hired to represent her. The case was immediately reset to March 19th. That's when the DA will decide if they will seek the death penalty. But Shara's attorney says he thinks it's unlikely.
There's a statute that talks about what kinds of cases are eligible for the death penalty. I don't believe this is one of those. Of course, we'll wait, just like you, to hear that decision. But my expectation is that they will not seek the death penalty because I don't think the law supports that.
Lorenzen Wright's family has been following everything closely, and they were again in court today. His grandmother says she will always be here.
And I will be here every time. You look at this grandmother will be here. Because I am Debbie's mother. That is my first grandson.
What do you want to happen?
I don't want her to get death, but I want her, let her live. And may God bless. And that's all I got to say.
Definitely interesting to see how that trial ends. It's time now to get a first look at our afternoon forecast. Here is Chief Meteorologist Keith Gibson.
2 days in a row, Renee. What's up? What's up, Renee? Come on. You'll get it by next Monday. I'm here Monday, too. All right, here's our Alvin and Skycam, a live look in downtown Columbus. A gorgeous day. We finally got the sun to appear. 58 in Columbus, 55, Double Nichols and Tupelo, and in Starkville and Calhoun City. So a lot of 50s right now. Here's the plan for the rest of the day. Notice the sun. That is staying put. We'll likely get into the low 60s here. Great weather as we go throughout the course of the afternoon. And as we get into the weekend, we will enjoy more sunshine. Rain and storms return Monday. The full forecast in just a few minutes.
Well, Keith, it's Friday, so that means you have to forgive me. Thanks a lot for that weather update. A longtime state representative is running for a U.S. Senate seat in Mississippi. Democratic Representative Omaria Scott of Laurel filed qualifying papers just before a deadline Thursday. She joins 5 other Democrats in the race for the Senate seat held by Republican Roger Wicker. President Donald Trump is endorsing Wicker, who has been in the Senate since 2007. Wicker faces 2 challengers for the Republican nomination. Party primaries are June 5th, and the general election is November 6th. Mississippi has not had a Democrat in the U.S. Senate since January 1989. Some good news for all you germaphobes out there. Experts with the Centers for Disease Control believe flu cases have peaked for the season. According to the CDC, the percentage of patients testing positive for influenza in clinical laboratories is decreasing. This is based on the number of cases reported from February 18th through the 24th, which is week 8 of the 2017-2018 influenza season. Well, could Delta Airlines move its headquarters after receiving backlash in Georgia from breaking ties with the NRA? A question we try to answer after the break.
You're watching Midday with Renee Skinner.
Welcome back. The CEO of Delta Airlines says we are not taking sides in the national debate over guns, despite the company's decision to cut ties with the National Rifle Association. Today, Delta released an internal memo that CEO Ed Bastian sent employees after Georgia lawmakers voted to deny the Atlanta-based airline a tax break as punishment for crossing the NRA. Bastian says our objective in removing any implied affiliation with the NRA was to remove Delta from this debate. The move backfired. The Republican-led Georgia legislature moved swiftly to eliminate a proposed tax exemption on jet fuel from a broader tax bill that passed Thursday. Now, after the backlash, many states are urging Delta Airlines to relocate its Atlanta headquarters. Governors from Connecticut, New York, and Virginia are among those pitching to the airline. Well, starting next week, the president plans to institute a 25% tariff on steel imports and 10% on aluminum indefinitely. President Donald Trump met with top executives from American steel and aluminum companies and announced he's instituting them in an effort to help domestic production. The president plans to make it official next week, and there's concern the move could spark a trade war with China and other countries. President Trump has long decried an unfair trade advantage and ordered a Commerce Department review. It found that steel and aluminum imports are a threat to national security, noting that only one U.S. company produces a high-quality aluminum alloy used in military aircrafts. Industry executives say they're encouraged. Many opponents say more expensive steel will hurt other U.S. industries like the automobile and machinery sectors. Some lawmakers say it all amounts to a tax hike for consumers. Well, the president's position on gun control have been fluid, leaning toward new restrictions earlier, and then last night, something of an intervention. The National Rifle Association came over and met with the president. A short time later, tweets from both left the distinct impression the White House and the NRA were on the same page. Take a look.
President Trump gave gun control advocates hope when he said this on Wednesday.
You have to look at the age of 21 for certain types of weapons. Take the guns first, go through due process second.
But last night, the NRA said Mr. Trump wanted the opposite. Following an Oval Office meeting, NRA executive lobbyist Chris Cox tweeted that Mr. Trump and Vice President Pence, quote, support strong due process and don't want gun control. An hour later, Mr. Trump tweeted that the meeting went great.
It destroys our companies and our jobs.
Yesterday, Mr. Trump also made a surprise announcement detailing new tariffs on steel and aluminum imports.
You will have protection for the first time in a long while, and you're going to regrow your industries.
The tariffs, 25% on steel and 10% on aluminum, prompted fears of a costly trade showdown with China and other U.S. trading partners. That sent the Dow plunging more than 400 points. Republicans slammed the move. Nebraska's Ben Sass said, quote, you'd expect a policy this bad from a leftist administration, not a supposedly Republican one. Senate Finance Committee Chairman Orrin Hatch, a top GOP voice on trade, called it a blunder.
Whoever advised